Shivu, my screen is visible?
Yes, doctor. Yes, doctor. Your screen is visible.
Shivu, am I audible? Shivu, am I audible?
Yeah. You're audible, doctor.
And screen is visible?
Yes. Your screen is visible. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, sure. I'll start now. Okay. Morning, everyone. I'm Dr. Himanshu from Kokilaben Hospital. I'm a practicing consultant orthopedic oncology, and I'm really thankful to Shibu giving this platform to us for expressing our views and our cases and to show how we are inclined towards the use of 3D printing technology. So we know that with evolution, innovation is an important thing. They both go along each other. Without one, other does not exist. We need to know, are we actually too busy to innovate? The dawn of any extremity bone sarcoma management, it was dominated by an amputation surgery. With the innovations and improvement in chemotherapy and radiation, there has been a paradigm shift from an amputation surgery to a limb salvage surgery. Now, limb salvage surgery, it consists of two parts. The surgical wide resection, where we remove the whole tumor part, and then the gap is filled by a material, either it is a biological material or a non-biological material, which is we known as the reconstruction part. In surgical wide resection, there has been many innovations. For example, like computer navigation planning, use of 3D printed jigs in helping in resection of the tumors, and now the most recent, the augmented reality use. In terms of metal prosthesis, where we use for reconstruction part, we initially had hinge prosthesis, then we had rotating platform prosthesis, then we had expandable prosthesis. Now the most recent is the customized 3D printed implants. Now coming to the main topic of 3D printing in orthopedic oncology, I'm going to present a series of cases and different roles where 3D printing application have been used. So going back to first case where we used 3D printed just the jigs. It was a male of 19-year-old who complained of pain and swelling in left thigh since 3 months. MRI showed an enhancing lesion in the left distal femur. So on the X-ray you see there is a lytic lesion here, and on MRI you see enhancing lesion in the distal part of the femur. Then we fused the CT and MRI image as it has been previously told by Dr. Weber regarding how you go ahead with 3D printing. So we first fuse the CT and MRI images, and then we plan a bone model and the jigs. So this jig would be used to cut the bone through the normal place, normal anatomy. So these are the osteotomy jigs which are made and the model of the bone. Then we remove this part of the tumor bone and then we re-radiate it and then re-implant it back. And this was the final function of the patient. So this 3D printing has given us the ability to make the jig which was placed intraoperatively to cut the exact amount of bone which we wanted to take out. Going back to second case where we used jigs along with a metal implant. So in the previous case, as you see, we've not used an implant prepared from 3D printing. So now this case, we would use the jigs along with a metal implant. So it was a male which was 24-year-old. He had hip pain since 9 months. X-ray showed a lytic lesion in the periacetabular region. So this is the X-ray of the patient, and the demarked area is the actually affected area with the tumor. This is the MRI, which also showed an enhancing lesion in the periacetabular region. So now when we talk about pelvic tumors, it has a great impact on quality of the life. How we would fill the defect after removing the tumor is the most challenging thing for the patient. Conventional modular pelvic prostheses which are available, one second please. The conventional prostheses which are available off the counter, they have high incidence of prosthetic mismatch as well as loosening. So initially we removed the whole pelvis, and this was the customized implant which was available, which was known as saddle prosthesis. It has higher rate of complication like loosening and penetration, progression. So what we routinely used to practice in these kind of pelvic tumor was we did not reconstruct anything. So we remove the tumor and we tie the remaining part of the leg to the remnant soft tissues or the bone which is available, which in turn resulted in severe shortening, and patient would be bedridden for 7 to 8 months. Now imagine a patient who would be bedridden for 7 to 8 months undergoing further chemotherapy. It would be very difficult for patient to come at frequent 21 days interval for another 6 to 7 cycles of chemotherapy who's bedridden. So what we went ahead and we planned and performed was a 3D printed periacetabular resection guides, as well as to fill the defect, we designed a customized pelvic implant. So the pre-operative planning consisted of two things now. One is to design the jigs and other was to design the implant. So designing of jigs was done on a 3D model of the bone, which was CT and MRI fused. So these are the jigs, the areas which I want to resect the bone from. Then this was the post resection model. This is all based on a computer program. So we design what is left after we remove the bone, and then the final part is how and where and what kind of fixation we want to use, like which kind of implant or where all the fixation I want. So this was the final 3D printed metal implant which was available, which we designed. So this is the patient positioning. I'm going to go shortly through the images of that. And this you see the jig which we made through the printed 3D printing technology, and this gives us the exact shape of the cut in the pelvis from where we want. This on the left you see the post resection model, and this on the right is the specimen and to the same size of the customized implant which was designed pre-operatively. We also do certain kind of implant preparation before we implant it. We use a nylon mesh which actually serves as an additional capsule for soft tissue attachment. This is post implantation. You can see the capsule of the mesh and the implant fixed to the remnant of the eyeline with the help of screws. And once we implant, we check the stability. So this is a short video demonstrating intraoperative stability after we fix the implant. So this is the femoral component, and then the above one is the pelvic component. So we check the range of movements intraoperatively to see the stability of the construct which we have given. So it moves well within the joint and it looks pretty stable, and then we'll reinforce this with the help of the mesh which we have. So this is immediately post-operative, the stitch line and the implant which is being implanted into the patient. And this is immediate, we say fifth post-op day walking of the patient with the help of this full weight bearing. Then this is 1 year post-operatively. The implant is well seated. There is no sign of failures, though no sign of implant loosening. The stitch line also healed pretty well. And this is the final function of the patient at 1 year. This is immediate post-operatively. As you see, he's fully weight bearing and walking. And this is 1 year post-operatively. So to conclude with these, at 1 year follow-up, there was no implant loosening, no recurrence, no periprosthetic infection, no limb shortening. Patient walked with support on 5th post-operative day. So satisfactory pelvic reconstruction can be achieved with a 3D printed hemipelvic prosthesis, which was till date not possible with other methods where we resorted to do no reconstruction in such patients. Now, the third part is how accurate is this 3D printing? And can I improvise this also further? So we all know that it is very good in doing pelvic tumor surgeries. It provides a good cutting accuracy. It also helps in extremity bone tumors where it reduces the blood loss, leads to shorter operative time, also reduces the risk of radiation exposure. But Then came this paper which suggested that positioning of these cutting guides which we designed by 3D printing, it solely depends on the surgeon's expertise. And we need to take the account of inevitable errors which can be introduced by human factors. So we also know that intraoperative navigation, it also has a potential to improve surgical accuracy. So why not we club both 3D printing as well as navigation to give much better results? So then came this study or the papers which concluded that when we combine these technologies, both of these, it actually reduces the human error part. So there was a study, a cadaveric study, which concluded that when we used a CT-based navigation system, it improves the accuracy of these 3D printed jigs in causing in which is used intraoperatively. So based on this, we did this case where we used the 3D printed jigs, we used the 3D printed metal implant, and also the use of intraoperative navigation to assist in better accuracy. So this was a male, 11 years old, complained of pain and swelling right upper arm since 3 months. MRI showed an enhancing lesion in the right proximal humerus with soft tissue extension. So this is the MRI of the child, and this is pre-chemotherapy MRI. This is the soft tissue component, and this is the intramedullary intraosseous disease. So we did a biopsy. It was Ewing sarcoma. PET scan was done, which was non-metastatic. We started on chemotherapy. Now, Ewing sarcoma responds very good to chemotherapy. So post-chemotherapy, the disease soft tissue component shrinked very well. The intramedullary intraosseous disease also reduced a lot. So we plan to do, so this is the response. We can see the pre-chemotherapy MRI on the left and then the post-chemotherapy MRI, the amount of response we got for chemotherapy. So we planned to design the 3D imprinted cutting jigs. So this is the plane for used, which is planned preoperatively, the proximal cut. These are the designing of the jigs, where I want my K wires, how the jig should be placed on the bone, which all part of the bone should be removed. Then we designed a snake plate, the customized metal plate, where all the fixation of screws I want, how many screws I want in proximal fragment, and how much bone we need to resect. This is all planned pre-operatively. This is the intraoperative navigation which we used during the surgery, which assisted us in placement of the proximal cutting jig. You will see that these are the K wires of the proximal cutting jig, which are placed based on the navigation, which helped us in accurate placement of these jigs. We also measured the screw sizes pre-operatively, which is, as Dr. Weber said, we can find out using 3D printing. This is the resected specimen. This is the bone model, and this is the customized plate which we designed for this patient. And this is the jig which we used to cut it. So this is the bone which we removed. We actually use a technique known as frozen autografts. We take this bone, we freeze it, and then we re-implant this bone back to the patient. So this is this is the same tumor bone which has been treated with liquid nitrogen. We place it back. This is the proximal portion. We reattach the subscapularis to the lesser trochanter, lesser tuberosity, and this is the plate which is there, customized plate. So this is post attachment of the subscapularis using ethibonds and the plate fixed. This is immediate post operative. So you can see the osteotomy cut was here in the proximal fragment and the distal fragment here. So at 2 months, there is no sign of implant failure. There is no signs of local recurrence. So this is follow up at 2 months. This is the most recent case which we did. The patient had reasonable good amount of forward flexion as well as the abduction. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. It was very energized with presentation and also very detailed. And also, as an oncologist, I'm sure you need to get into the intricacies of everything. And I saw a lot of implants which you've been doing in this space. You've been having a lot of metal implants, and these are all titanium implants, Doctor.
All are titanium implants.
Interesting, very interesting. So I'm sure we also come to a stage where where Dr. Bebu also was actually sharing. Like we would also come to a stage where we would also look at bony implant, as in when I'm talking about materials which could be bone-like. Do you think, doctor, we could come to that stage soon? Maybe I'm
I'm
sure.
more interested in designing ligaments and muscles, the soft tissue reconstruction part, because see, the metal you can reform it on intraoperatively on table using your plate benders or something. So being an orthopedic surgeon, you'll somehow fix it. That is not a problem for orthopedic surgeon. We will fix all the bones, but the problem is how do you reconstruct the soft tissues? So if
Right.
you see in my surgeries, we remove all the muscles, we remove everything. So to give back good function, it is very difficult. So if you have a material which can be designed as a functional biceps muscle, so if suppose I have removed the biceps of a patient, and if I have a material, there is no way I can uh, transfer any other muscle to the function of biceps. So if I have a material which can be put there and function as an, not as normal biceps, but yes, in terms of good function, it gives similar function as biceps, that would be an amazing, because then we can print metal, we can print the soft tissue, and over the period of time you can actually print the whole limbs. So rest all is just how much you innovate.
So I think interestingly, we also have formulated a session on hard and soft tissues tomorrow, doctor. Please do
Yeah.
join, or it will be a great engaging session, and that also encourages a lot of researchers and doctors who are also working in the space in tissue engineering. And we have some great minds joining in tomorrow, so you should be there. And I think that's where clinicians coming with inputs like these would actually be a learning, and it could actually help respondents who are working on these solutions come up with great solutions working in confluence. Thank you so much, doctor. And I will now ask the audience if there are any questions. Doctor, you can also just click on those. You will have.
I saw this one question from Dr. Thirudeep M. What is the timing difference you experience between using of conventional implant against the 3D printed implant? Have you started using scaffold for soft tissue regeneration? Yeah, that's a very good question, Dr. Thirudeep, because in oncology, we are time bound, and I cannot delay my patient from surgery schedule, because then my adjuvant chemotherapy would get delayed. So if I have a patient, so I have to design and plan pre-operatively. A minimum of 1 month is required to get these customized implant printed. So as my patient is undergoing chemotherapy, because there are so many changes and it is not a pre-designed implant, so like off the counter available implants are there, like normal plates are available. In this I have to decide where my cut would be, how much bone would go, how much fixation screws I would have to use. So this designing takes at least 10 to 15 days, but the metal printing generally, as I have asked many vendors, it takes generally 15 to 10 days to get the metal printing done. So if I can cut this short to 15 days in a total, that would be very good, because my last chemotherapy would be 15 days before. So if 15 days lead time I have, that is the best. But generally it takes around 1.5 months. Regarding the second part, the scaffold for soft tissue regeneration, I am still yet to find a good suitable material. Initially, we used to use a Trevera tube, polyglycoside material tube, which we used to cover over the implant and then tie the remaining soft tissue there. But no material I found which can replace the active muscle of a patient. Second thing is been asked by, I would like to meet you, offer that is very good, Dr. Jayesh. I would be really interested in using bioabsorbable material which I can use to cover my implant, provided the durability of the material we use is pretty good, so that I can attach the soft tissue to the material, the bioabsorbable material, rather than to a metal implant. I think 15 days is possible, doctor. We will be in. Oh, that is very good, Dr. Thirudeep, that if we can cut down the lead time to just 15 days, I can give a better scenario to the patient, that he does not have to wait. See, the finances also takes a part, that 1.5 months before a cancer patient has to pay for a metal implant, which he feels that, and the problem is that what if in 1.5 months the disease increase? Imagine I'm giving chemotherapy to a patient. First chemotherapy, the disease responded. Second chemotherapy, if the disease does not respond and the disease started increasing. So 1.5 months before, I've started designing an implant. And by the time he comes for the surgery, the disease has increased. Now I cannot change my pre-designed implant. So if the lead time is short, I can actually be more specific and more accurate. That's what I feel. What do you feel, Dr. Shibu, regarding how we reduce this lead time? Because this is the most concerning thing which I have.
Yeah, so I think that's something that we should do with building a consortium, working in conference with designers, clinicians, and I think going forward, that's also the larger intent. Now that we've actually built a consortium, forming that. In fact, we shared that, Doctor.
Yeah.
Being also, I mean, we would also want to take that lead, and respondents like you who are very actively looking at solutions. I think they're right to build that channel to take things forward. I'm sure. In fact, Dr. Jayesh sir is also sharing a presentation tomorrow. Should be a part of that discussion on resorbable materials. He did post his inputs here. So I think that's exactly what we should be doing. In terms of seeing where we can create opportunities and create options, and in terms of working in conference together. And good to meet today. It was really encouraging in terms of having all these inputs coming from various clinicians starting from the morning, Doctor. You sat through the sessions. And that's the key. Clinicians coming up with their inputs and use cases should be a part of the whole idea. And then also coming from technology experts sharing their insights. I think the second half will cover all of that when it comes to technology. It may be for 3D image visualization or maybe 3D printing, with AR and AI going to be the key with 3D printing. So I think it's a good. So your question, if I could answer, is in terms of working in all the technologies and respondents going forward. That's the idea.
Yeah. That's so true.
And that's our job to make it happen. Happen. So that's the idea. Yeah. Thank you so much for your time. And you would also be engaging in other sessions. Please do.
Sure.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Doctor.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you.